what we need is 20 AI agents completing all the tasks we don't want to do. And we become instead a puppet master of the AI agents and instructing them exactly what we want them to do. And I'm hopeful that 2025 could be the beginning of that reality. Hey, new friends. I'm Caitlin Sapir. You're listening to AI and Anxious, where professionals spill their AI secrets and struggles. This is a solo episode today to do an AI wrap on 2024 and look forward to what we can expect in 2025. And if it's anything like this year, it is going to be off chops. And may I say, I can't believe it's been 5 years since 2020. And whoa, it has been a wild ride. Even looking back at 2024 is just insane. I mean, even earlier in the year, when I think about what do I look for as an AI educator when I am perusing all of the information to do with AI, the models that are coming out are usually what we look to in terms of understanding where AI is at. Where is it at in terms of augmenting or replacing role, even at the start of the year? So in February, we had Gemini 1.5 Pro from Google. We had Claude 3 Opus, which was performing benchmarking really well also in February. And then we had Llama 3 released back in April, which was the frontier model from Meta, which is open source and you can freely download and manipulate, which I can't believe that was only in April this year. Then in May, we had GPT-4o, which again was another step change in the OpenAI models, which was outperforming Opus. But when Sonnet 3.5 came out in June, that was a quick takeover of GPT-4o, and a lot of professionals that I speak to use Claude in their day-to-day. However, things changed a lot in the past few weeks and months even. We saw from OpenAI the O1 series, which is touted as step 2 on OpenAI's AGI roadmap, otherwise known as the computers taking over, or rather becoming super intelligent and surpassing human intelligence. Think of the crazy movies like iRobot is essentially what is depicted in media as AGI. So they're saying it's step 2 on a step 5 plan to AGI, according to OpenAI. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. But that was only a few months ago. We also saw Sonnet 3.5 from Anthropic, Claude. I know it's confusing. So you've got the main leaders that you generally see on the leaderboards are OpenAI, who own ChatGPT. There's Anthropic, who own Claude. There's Meta, which is previously known as Facebook, with Llama. And then you have variations of Gemini, which is from Google. And there's also a model from Microsoft that is there's LLMs, large language models, and then you have SLMs, which are small language models. And by small, it's not that much smaller in terms of parameters. So a large language model would be, upwards of 70 billion parameters, whereas small language models generally are in the lower digits, so sub 10 billion parameters. So it's not small in the scheme of things, but it is in the scheme of language models. So yeah, that was October. We also had Llama 3.3. So we had 0.1, 0.2, and 0.3 this year, which is that's such a fast release. That's crazy. And the Llama 3.3 model, again, is benchmarking close to GPT-4o. So definitely up there with the best of them, Then we had 4.0. So yeah, that's the small language model. And it's pretty good for those more nuanced tasks, but it's not these larger models are better for general purpose, but it's a cool open source model. So we love that we can manipulate and customize that. And then we have O3, which came out as part of OpenAI's 13 whatever it was, like 12 Days of Christmas. So cringe, but that's okay. There was some interesting stuff that came out through that. So all of these releases, so O1, O3, Sonnet 3.5, Llama 3.3, Gemini 2.0, and 5 4.0 were literally in the past few months since October, and then others in the last few weeks, like O3. So crazy, honestly. Like, the release of models is next level. We also kind of saw the progression of what skills these models have now. So we were getting to, ability to solve college level exams or university level exams, self-critiquing and reflecting on answers that the models are giving. They can build applications, or at least the underlying code. And we have spatial reasoning, advanced creativity, and we also have some quite a significant progression in mathematical resolutions. But for the white collar professional, which is predominantly this audience, probably more like it's faster, can solve a more complex problems. And then that's more focused on, I suppose, text to text models. So text in and then text out from the model. Then we've had some really interesting multimodality models come out. So this is kind of beyond text, outputting video and music and cool stuff like that. So we had Sora released recently, which I played around with. Many people have. It's pretty amazing. But again, what are the use cases for a white collar professional? I guess, marketing, content creation. I think marketers probably have been the most nervous this year, just in terms of the abilities of AI. But I think, again, when we're talking about AI and AI anxiety, which is, this is going to take over my job or it's going to take over the world, I think the content creators are very much worried about their place in the world. But I've seen a lot of marketers take a very positive and optimistic approach, and they're creating things at scale and creating really, really interesting content and design and art they weren't able to do before, and actually now get paid more. So I love that for them. So that, it's not just about being replaced and feeling invaluable or not as valuable, but there's a lot of tools that can make you a superhuman, which is some things that I cover in my course, GenAI Jumpstart. But I'll put that in the notes. So when we talk about multimodal models, big mouthful of words, this is beyond text. So we're talking about outputting different things. So Sora is outputting video from a text input, performing quite well. Definitely suggest checking it out if you haven't. It's part of the ChatGPT premium, I think $30 a month subscription, and you can try it out. Then you've got Udio and Suno, who've been around a while, but I feel like just the jump from February until the last couple of months has been significant in terms of where models were earlier in the year and where they are now. Udio and Suno are a music generation platform, or audio generation, but predominantly music. And then also 11 Labs introduced a feature called sound effects. So I've used that quite a few times, being able to generate unique sound effects for various content. So that's quite interesting. And just the melodic progression, I'm not a musician, but the melodic progression of Udio and Suno has significantly improved. GPT-4o voice mode came out this year. If you haven't used it, that's also a fantastic feature. One of my friends, Matthias Salinas from Little Phil, he uses the voice mode, honestly, to probably an annoying level. When I used to be in the office with him, he'd be on his phone talking to ChatGPT, and I didn't realize that, I thought he'd be talking to me, and so I'd turn around, and of course he's always talking to the AI. So if anything, I've been replaced as his friend. So which I totally get. But it is really great to be able to capture thoughts and have a back and forth with the AI instead of having to type everything out, because often, I'm sure there's studies on this of some description, where getting context and getting information out of a human brain may be easier vocally than it is to type out, or at least it's more natural and less exhausting, I think. So that was a really great feature to come out, and I'm waiting to see when Anthropic is going to introduce that into the Claude models, because still it can't comprehend audio just yet. So I think like these kind of multimodality features that GPT is releasing, while the underlying model for Claude is better, so generally better outputs when you're doing text to text, GPT does have a lot of features that mean that you may get a bit more diverse inputs and outputs, which in the end could enhance what you're doing versus just being the best underlying model. Multimodal is great, don't get me wrong. It really can enhance the way that AI gathers context. Therefore, it can have a better output because it understands the problem you're trying to solve better. In saying that, myself and many other AI educators are quite excited about the movement towards agentic AI. So just a fancy way of saying AI agents. And AI agents are essentially autonomous agents that can go ahead and complete a task and come back to you with the task completed. So it's like a multi-step problem. Instead of just putting in a text prompt into a model, you're able to give it a defined tasks and maybe subtasks, and then it can autonomously go off and use essentially a computer to navigate and resolve this task for you. An example of an agentic task that you might get it to do could be, I want you to go and gather transcripts from all of my old podcasts by going to YouTube and copying the transcripts and then putting them into a Google document and then, I don't know, summarizing all my podcasts. So it's just a multi-step problem that would be a task that you may complete at work, and you have these kind of little worker agents that are driven by AI and can complete these tasks. So very interesting. Towards the end of this year, and especially with Gemini 2 and the Claude computer use that was released, that is where we're moving towards this agentic relationship with AI agents, because obviously AI becomes a lot more useful if you could just give it a specific task to complete and it goes and completes it, instead of you having to use a text prompt and then continuously iterating with the prompt, which can honestly take people days in the extreme cases. And then you have to then take whatever output you've got and then you have to like go translate that into something, because it's stopped at just a text output. And so, you know, if you're creating a proposal, for example, maybe it also hits like a rate limit, so it only completes like part of the proposal, and then you have to put it in a nice PDF, and then you have to go draft the email to someone and send that off. The intention is to be able to complete the administrative tasks that tie together the main task that you're trying to complete. So very early stages in that regard. 2024 was the introduction, the birth of publicly available agentic solutions, but certainly not anywhere near where you would need it to actually be useful and complete tasks for you as if it was a mini worker. However, there will be a lot of progress in that realm next year, which I'll talk about a bit more in a second. And then there was this cool article from Google that said, professional use cases unlocked, 321 use cases. And I'll put it in the notes, but there's just this very long article about all of the use cases that have been explored by the Google team. And I'm sure all the other major, AI leaders in this space, OpenAI, Claude, any of the big consulting firms who might be working in AI could tell you many use cases. I could also tell you many use cases, but that's actually a good article to reflect some of the examples of use cases. So essentially 2024, I think 2023, if we go another step back, was the introduction in the wow moment of the public release of these ChatGPT in particular getting into the public eye and having massive saturation across the world. And then 2024 was about businesses in particular, individuals actually figuring out, okay, these tools are amazing. This is now embedded into my workflow, a lot of people's workflows. How do I actually get the most out of it? How do I go beyond the hype and figure out how this can improve my work and how to automate and augment my role, everything like that. So yeah, there's been massive progress this year in terms of actually getting it practically into organizations, workflows, and personal workers' workflows. However, still a lot more to go. There's a lot of issues with AI policy, which I'm sure will continue next year, just in terms of some people or some organizations actually blocking certain things, the education system having to deal with the introduction of AI. There's a lot more work to be done in terms of the safe use of AI, which Anthropic is trying to lead, but we will see how that plays out in terms of the balance of safety and then the progress of AI as to what it can do for humanity at large. It's very interesting. But yeah, in terms of when I'm thinking about, okay, where is AI at and how is it influencing or impacting different industries, I have created a framework and a test so that I can try and measure what the impact is of these AI models and solutions in terms of where are we at in terms of AI replacing jobs and augmenting jobs, and what industry in particular in the knowledge worker space or the white collar worker space. So I will cover this more in a different episode, but I've created something called the ARIA test. So Autonomous Responsive Intelligence Assessment. It just looks at, okay, where is the AI at in terms of human level accuracy in its design tasks? How well does it perform at recognizing its limitations and being able to escalate when necessary? And how good is it at preserving context and continuity across all interactions? So essentially, I'm measuring and looking at how well is AI able to replicate human-created work? How does it go with maintaining context and consistency? How does it handle unexpected situations and edge cases? How does it work seamlessly with other systems and humans and integrations? And can it make complex decisions? And what level of reasoning? So that's when I'm looking at models and how they are influencing work as we know it now as white-collar professionals. That's what I'm looking at. And I'm essentially going to be putting it into buckets. So there's, when I think about white-collar workers and knowledge workers, I think about core tasks that's shared across industries. So, for example, text generation writing, like writing tasks is across marketing and law and finance and software engineering and basically all white collar professions. Then you have visual and media creation, data analysis and research, financial analysis, administrative coordination, human communications. So that's via phone or video, as most of us are communicating online, not really as much in person at the moment. Strategic planning, then project and process management, relationship building, and coded software. So those are the core tasks I believe that white collar workers are generally undertaking. And so there'll be a measurement against where is AI at in terms of augmenting and automating each of those core tasks, because that's what we'll be looking at quite heavily next year too. And then the ARIA test also will fit into different industry applications. So you've got marketing, content creation, research, and academia. financial services and accounting, software and technology, operations and administration, customer service, corporate strategy, project and people management, legal and risk management, and sale and business development. So basically, I've tried to put it in the top 10 industry applications and then the top 10 core task buckets. And I'm very sure that just in terms of when we're getting an understanding of how AI is impacting white-collar workers and knowledge workers' individual roles, we actually have a way to measure that instead of just saying, oh, this model is the best for general purpose, or, it's good at content creation, or, I think it's quite difficult to measure exactly how well AI is performing in a given role, where you should incorporate it, where you're going to get the highest ROI in your workflow, or if you should even use it at all, because AI doesn't perform, at an exceptional level at every task. It seems to favor different tasks. So the ARIA test will be something that will be used a bit next year to see where AI is benchmarking and how close we are to iRobot, essentially. Yes. To what level of panic should we be at? The ARIA test can help us understand that benchmarking of AI automation, how much it's going to impact our lives and our roles, in what industries in particular, and in what specific tasks in those roles. It will provide a level of reassurance and insight as to how AI can play a positive role, or when you need to be considering the capabilities of AI at that point in time. Beyond that, predictions for 2025. This is not necessarily a unique prediction, but it may be something you may not be aware of as a white-collar worker. So when I was talking about the agentic theme, that has been an emergent theme this year, early stage agentic from Anthropic and from Google. And we are going to see AI agents pop off next year. I'm sure we'll see Claude progress quite a bit next year. A major limitation from my point of view for a knowledge worker is there's a lot of restrictions on integrations with other systems. So you can only really use the computer, Claude driving a computer to do things you could do public facing. So, everyone can use Google, but not everyone can use your internal Salesforce to do things. And a lot of tasks in a white-collar professional's role each day is interacting with a bunch of different platforms and systems and software to achieve a task. So without it actually integrating and using your credentials to be able to log in to platforms to complete tasks is going to be quite limited. However, they'll probably make some progress on that next year. But yeah, we're seeing a lot of early stage agentic models this year. You will see a lot more progress next year. I do want to mention simtheory.ai is definitely someone to watch next year in terms of the agentic trend, as they are working on developing their own computer using AI agents. If you do Google AI autonomous agents, you'll see a couple of providers, but they are all pretty expensive and there's limited abilities there. But I think SimTheory will be able to bring out some pretty interesting stuff next year. Not sponsored, just a platform that I use quite a lot. Then Gemini 2.0 is another foray from one of the major players into the agentic theme. So I'm sure we'll see a lot of progress. I mean, if we look back this year, and the progress even from February to October is crazy, like we had almost like 4 releases from February in terms of improvement, like at least 4x improvement on models that were released earlier in the year. So I can only imagine what we're going to see next year. But yeah, the focus will definitely be on being able to get that task completion independently, given a specific task, instead of needing to spend heaps of time going back and forth with prompting. Prompting will still be important in terms of what you're asking the model to do. Communication and creativity is honestly a massive skill that needs to be focused on when you are working with AI models, because that soft skill is going to be the difference between a mediocre output and a great output. I think we'll see a lot more integrations with major software players in terms of the agentic side of things, just trying to augment and automate parts of roles that weren't particularly enjoyable. You start to become more of a manager and, the captain of a spaceship, an AI spaceship, instead of having to grind at prompting AI agents until you get the thing that you want. It can independently iterate and realize, oh, that's not quite what the brief was. I'm going to create or spin up other agents to assist me that are specialized, or I'm going to take a different route. And that independent thinking is really where we will see AI totally uplift and change some roles next year. Other things that are happening next year, in partnership with This Day in AI, another amazing podcast you should totally check out, we are going to run a mega AI conference mid next year. So that'll be amazing. Get together with a bunch of other AI enthusiasts and nerds and nerd-curious people, as I call them, somewhere in Australia or potentially the US, to be confirmed. But that will be a really amazing place to create the AI hive mind and get lots of updates from some of the big players next year. So that will be amazing. Just generally, no doubt, there will be many more models to come and model updates next year, particularly multimodal and agentic. So the LMSys leaderboard, which I'll put in the notes, is a place to be looking at in terms of what models are out. There's also another link I will put in there in terms of tracking some of the models that are getting released next year. Yeah, so that is a wrap on this year. It's been a massive year for AI and technology, even bigger than 2023. And 2025 will see a lot more autonomous agents being able to complete tasks in a variety of industries and core tasks that I mentioned. I will expand on the ARIA test a bit more next year and start to benchmark some of the models against that in terms of what does it mean for your particular industry and what does it mean for the core tasks in your role and how AI is going to impact, automate, or augment parts of your role. So it'll give you a insight that's a bit more useful and practical for your day-to-day versus just all this hype and chat about different AI models, but is this AI model actually going to help you in your role? Often it doesn't. It's just maybe it might help with a very small part of your role, but the tracking of how AI agents are going next year will be absolutely critical because it has the ability to be like a mini worker. Solo founders in particular, they're talking about that you could have almost like a 20-person team working for you and they're all just AI agents. Same could be said for an individual worker. Imagine if you had a smart team of 20 additional staff to help you instead of you having to complete your complex role all on your own. Hopefully we can move towards that 4-day work week, maybe 4 hours a day. I disagree with the 9 to 5, 8 hours a day. What we need is 20 AI agents completing all the tasks we don't want to do, and we become instead a puppet master of the AI agents and instructing them exactly what we want them to do. And I am hopeful that 2025 could be the beginning of that reality. So thank you for listening in. And of course, I have to do a shameless plug at the end of my podcast. I have created a 5.5-hour non-coder course. So it takes you step by step through everything you need to know about the AI landscape, including lots of practical outcomes, has 10 sections that cover prompting, how to customize models, how to determine models are best for you, how to determine different types of implementation methods for the best ROI for yourself or your company, It covers GenAI policy, how to minimize limitations, and lots of amazing stuff, and multimodalities and autonomous agents. It covers literally everything that you would need to know when coming into this AI advanced world. And I do my best to explain it in a very accessible way, practical and focused on white collar workers / knowledge workers. So that is called GenAI Jumpstart. You can look at that on blackfeather.ai or blackfeatherai.com. I will also put it in the notes, but I would certainly implore you to check out the course. We've had quite a few professionals use it so far and love it, and there's testimonials you can find on the website as well. But otherwise, it's been a great year. It's going to be a crazy year next year, and I'm really excited to see what is going to happen, and I'm sure you are too, but we will be along the journey together on AI and Anxious.
What are we saying to each other?
It seems they're trying to teach us a basic tonal vocabulary.
It's the first day of school, fellas.